Welcome, Chris. Chris Pirillo, you are the founder of Gnome. That was your first project, right?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Back in 1996.
Ah, right. So
based on a high school nickname. I probably could have registered any domain name at the time.
Yes.
Like way back when it was like $100 a domain.
Just would have known at that time.
Yeah, I mean, who knew? That would have been like a multi-billion-dollar business.
Yes.
And I was worried that someone else was going to register Locker Gnome.
Ah, right. Yeah, right. Haha.
It happens.
Well,
right.
Today we want to talk about a business model. Like young founders talk a lot about their business models and successful business models that make a lot of money. And we're going to talk about a business model which is quite interesting because it is being yourself. Like being yourself as a business model. That wouldn't have worked like 10 years ago or maybe 15 years ago, at least not that successfully, but now it works. So what is it, being your own business?
Well, being yourself.
Being yourself.
Certainly.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And that's at the core of it. I mean, the moment that you stop being yourself, that's when you kind of lose the magic. Mm-hmm. My interests today are certainly different than my interests as they were even 10, 12 years ago when I first started online. Uh-huh. And yes, I think you're right. I don't know if the business model of a cult of personality could have worked before the advent of the internet. It's certainly become easier as tools have developed. Tools like Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, YouTube, and the like. These are platforms that only serve to enhance a personality and kind of bring to light different sides to somebody. But ultimately, it's having a good amount of presence or charisma. And being able to translate your passions, whatever they happen to be, into a business model. So for me, it's my general interest in technology and communication that made it quite possible to carve out a career out of a series of personality disorders.
All right. So just being yourself is just the business model, but there are so many people out there, so many people on Facebook, so many people blogging, getting more and more every day. And how do you manage it to become to be heard? Like because there's so much noise outside. How do you get heard?
Well, part of it is having strong opinions and being present. Certainly not slinking away from the limelight, but actually, embracing it to a certain degree, both good and bad. And I think another component that very few seem to understand is actually getting outside of the online space. So right now we're physically in the same room together. That's a big component to it, especially if people don't know who you are, what you do, what you stand for, etc. You kind of have to be seen on the scene.
Okay.
So yes, it's important to be involved online and wherever you happen to be, concentrating your firepower. But yes, getting outside of the internet is also extremely important.
Still is important.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely, because you have to be seen. You have to do something worth talking about. And if you're not doing anything worth talking about, well, then no one's going to be talking about you 9 times out of 10.
All right, and then together with being like really interesting personality, you also have to know a lot about like search engine optimization or about marketing, because it's kind of marketing yourself, right?
Pretty much, yeah. If you can't be a shameless self-promoter, it's going to be a very difficult time. It's certainly an ongoing process. It doesn't just stop here. The goal is going to be constantly this carrot dangling in front of you, just hanging out there, and you're going to constantly be walking, a dog chasing its tail, constantly moving. The moment you stop, you're going to be left behind. So it's a constant adaptation to an ever-changing array of opportunities. Just a few years ago, the sweethearts online, Dig, Delicious, Flickr, you kind of had to be there, you kind of had to understand their models to be relevant. Well, nowadays, you don't hear too much about them as much as you hear about Twitter and Facebook. It kind of trails off from there in terms of these general tech conversations. So you usually see when a product comes out, they're integrating Facebook Connect, or now using Twitter's API in some capacity, integrating the services because they're taking a lion's share of mind share. And the more you are able to understand and predict the models of whatever industry you happen to be in, and the more you share your insight with other people, and maybe the more you are proven to be correct about your beliefs or your assertions over time, the more credibility you're going to gain.
All right. So that's what you did, right?
Generally speaking, yeah. I mean, people say, "Oh, how did you get to do tech TV? How did you get to do CNN.com? How did you get to do this, and this?" And it's taken 12 years to get to where I am right now. And there's some people who can hit that delta a lot sooner. I can say it's a lot easier to get things done online. Or to assert yourself online than it was, a decade ago. That's an absolute truth. That doesn't take away from the longevity of spending time, either promoting something that you're doing or just being yourself. And if you're able to translate what it is that you enjoy and figure out that business model within the things that you enjoy, and if you have a strong personality to be able to sell that, you kind of got the basis of a winning combination. It doesn't mean that it's going to work. There's a lot of factors at play. I mean, luck, I think, has a lot to do with it. Who you know as well, and the connections that you make.
So it's also building networks, like offline networks, to be heard. Yeah.
Well, you have to. It's funny. I go to certain groups, and whether they're local or I'm somewhere outside of where I live, which is in Seattle, Washington, and meet people who I've known for a very short amount of time and know they've only been around for a short amount of time, yet they're already heralded as someone in the know, even though they don't have as much longevity in the same space that I happen to be in. And I take that with a grain of salt, or see it as something that's not. And I'm sorry for using so many probably American euphemisms and idioms.
Totally fine.
Dog chasing his tail, grain of salt. It's crazy. Hopefully everyone can follow. It doesn't take much to establish yourself as someone in the know. Okay. And the more you're able to do that in as many spaces as possible, the more your name's going to come up in conversation. You're getting attention. You're getting mind share. And that's very much a part of being a personality or having a cult of personality. I don't share everything about my life. I do share a lot of it, or certainly my passions, and constantly refining the walls of privacy that I keep around me. But ultimately, it's figuring out what works for you, what you're comfortable with, what you're happy with, what you want in life.
All right. So you said if you add other topics that you talk about, like did you start very narrow, like just blog about like really narrow field? Or?
Yeah, I was blogging before blogging was a word or a platform, so I was doing it. I was just doing it under the guise of an email newsletter, and so I was writing a lot about technology, largely related to either the internet or Windows, the Windows platform. Well, fast forward to today, yes, the internet's still very exciting to me, but I also am extremely, how do I say this, much more balanced in terms of the operating systems that I use. So I use Mac OS X, Windows, Linux. I used to be just pretty much a Windows user, and a large part of my base was built on my interest and their interest, our shared interest. And as my interest in Windows started to wane, didn't completely disappear, but as it kind of was diminished, some people liked that and some people didn't like that. They wanted to keep me in the box of, no, you must like Windows. But as soon as I said, no, I use Mac OS X too, freaked some people out. It really freaked them out. They got pissed off at me.
Okay.
This is why. Because it's less about my choices and more about their choices projected onto me.
Okay. And they thought you speak with their voice. Somehow they are really connected to you.
Yes.
And suddenly they realize, no.
Right.
You have some other interests than them.
Yes.
Okay.
I severed the ties.
Yes.
That's actually a personality disorder. When people, and I'm able to recognize it as such, it's basically very like a stalker type of behavior, a stalker mentality. And not to say that the people who got mad at me because I switched from Windows to Mac are stalkers. I'm not making that conclusion, but it's very much the personality type. If you read the book Controlling People by Patricia Evans, it becomes very evident, that these people who have an issue with change, wow. I mean, there's a lot of people who have issues with change. And especially when it comes to, a personality where they've got you inside this little box, and the moment you step out, sometimes people don't like that. They want to keep you inside that box. But it's not about you, it's more about their comfort with you. And at first it might bother you, but over time you realize it's not my problem, it's theirs.
More their problem, okay.
Right.
So you sometimes look into the future, you try to predict what happens. So what do you think? How will social interaction change? It has changed already a lot during the past. And how will it change? What do you think?
It's going to become easier, to manage. And I mean, there's the buzzword right now is real-time web.
Okay.
The tools are accelerated to the point where we're able to more easily get to the information we want to get to when we want to get to it. Google
sort out the information we don't want to get, because there's also a lot of information that's not useful.
Right, and that's filtering and organization, and I think that's really what I'd like to see a lot more firepower concentrated on.
Okay.
Instead of another Twitter tool, let's start bringing it all together. Let's start organizing. Let's start making it easier to manage. Yeah. And I haven't seen anything out there that makes it remotely possible. If it's not possible for my parents, then it's not ready yet. There's a glut of information, but ultimately to combine my interests or what I'm looking for, what I need, with my trusted network of friends, people who I know, with a trusted network of a community, with the global network being the internet. That's we're not anywhere near that. I don't know who's going to make it happen, but that's really the next thing is bringing all this information into a very consumable format. Right now, it's still all over the map.
Okay. Well, good to know. Well, thanks a lot for the interview.
No problem.
And so people who want to follow your blog, there are...
Just go to Google.
Just go to Google, right?
Yeah,
and type in Chris, and
right.
the first thing that will appear is your blog.
Right, on Google.com for the English
you don't know
version.
how it is, in other countries.
Right.
But if you
don't
find it on Google, it's for example...
Oh, chris.pirillo.com.
All right.
Or Twitter, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Google Chris Pirillo. That
Right.
will be number one all over the world.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. I hope at least. So.
Good.
Cool.
All right. Thanks a lot.
No problem.